Hi everyone, this is Pradeep Kumar Ray. I teach physics and I've been teaching physics to IITJ and NEET aspirants like you for the past 12 years. I've done my BTech from NIT Warangal and after passing out, I've had my stints with the top national brands of the field, that is Sri Chaitanya, Narayana Group, Fiji, and Brilliant Tutorials. And I'm currently also with Sri Chaitanya Group at its Vijayawada main campus, one of the premier IDJ campus from which we have been producing under 100 rankers year after year. And I produced the highest rank so far, 92, and I've been privileged to teach a student like that. And today I'm present before you to discuss some really challenging and amazing problem of JEE Advanced, pertaining to JEE Advanced. And if you'll ask me that what could be the most challenging topic from JEE Advanced perspective, hands down it has to be rotational dynamics, because so many concepts are misleading, confusing. The students get really confused when he gets a question involving more than one concept, particularly in rotational dynamics. So without further ado, let's start with a really amazing problem, which I'm sure you'll definitely love it. You'll really appreciate it when we are done with the problem. So please be with me for the next 30 to 40 minutes. You're going to really enjoy the things. Okay, so let's start. Rotational dynamics. So the topic that I've taken is rotational dynamics, and the problems that I'm going to discuss, they'll be involving the concepts of collision, plus concept of collision plus conservation of angular momentum. And the reason of that is such a topic that it never involves a single concept. Always the questions are multi-conceptual. And that is the primary reason why there is a hell lot of difficulty for the students in being able to crack the problems of rotational dynamics. Okay, so let's start. So what the problem says, I'll go with the first problem of the day. I've got a uniform rod of mass m and length L. A uniform rod of mass m and length L. There is a center, and let this end is A and this end is D. This end is A and this end is D. And this low end, I'm assuming that, let's say that a height h from the horizontal ground. Get the question very clearly. This low end A is at height h from the horizontal ground, and this rod is making an angle theta with horizontal at this moment. So what is happening here? A man is holding this rod. Suppose you are holding this rod by your hand, such that this lower end is at a height h from the ground. It makes an angle theta with the horizontal. It's a uniform rod of mass m and length L. As you can see in the figure, absolutely clear what information is given in the question. The very first task to crack a question is to clearly read, clearly comprehend all the information that is given in the question in a very steady manner. You don't need to be hurried. That is an investment of the time that you need to do. What is the very first mistake that students do? They rush with reading of the question. When you rush with the reading of the question, you're not able to comprehend. You're only reading, but you are not comprehending the things. And comprehending the thing is the first and foremost step to crack the question. Clear? So the very first thing is what? To read the question properly, and what the information says that you have got a uniform rod of mass and length L. It is held in such that it is held by means of a hand of a man, such that it makes an angle theta with horizontal and this lower end A is at height h from the horizontal ground. This is the horizontal ground. This is my horizontal ground. Clear? This is my horizontal ground. Right? So what happens? So I'm holding it. Suddenly, so the man who is holding it, his hands start paining. Obviously, he's a man, he can feel the pain. His hands start paining and he releases the rod. He releases the rod and allows the rod to fall under gravity without any rotation. What the question says, without any, I'm writing here, without any rotation, the rod is not allowed to have any rotation till what? Till the first collision. The rod is not allowed to have any rotation till the first collision. Means the rod is assumed to have only purely translational motion. We conclude from this, the rod is executing only, is undergoing only purely translational motion till it makes the first collision. Is that clear? Fine. So rod comes down and hits the ground like this. Obviously, the angle is going to remain the same because the motion will be like this. Every part of the rod is going to move in a linear path only. Every part of the rod is going to move in a linear path only. That means the motion will be purely translational. So when the rod is going to hit the ground, this lower end A will be on the ground. So this angle will be still theta. The angle is not going to change. The angle can change only if there is a rotational motion of the rod. Fine. Rod hits here. And for this collision, the coefficient of restitution is given as 0.5. E is given as 0.5. Fine. Absolutely no problem. E is given as 0.5 for the collision of the rod with the horizontal ground. Correct? And it's a smooth ground, mu is 0. There is no friction coefficient, it's a smooth ground, mu is 0. But E is given as 0.5. So what will happen? The rod will again bounce up with some velocity. It will move up, reach the highest point, again it will come down, and again it will make an impact with the ground. And after first collision, I'm saying it, after first collision, the rod is allowed to undergo both rotation and translation if it is possible. After the first collision, after it makes the first impact, it moves up in the upward and downward journey. Between the first and the second collision, the rod is allowed to have both the rotational and the translational motion. Clear? Okay. So rod moves up, comes down, and when it hits here again, means makes the second impact. The other end D, which was here in the first collision, now this other end D will be making the impact with the ground. The impact made by the ground will be that of the point D, not that of the point A when the second collision happens. And again, this angle is also theta. Correct? It's given in the question. This angle is also theta. The angle made by the rod while making the first impact will also be theta. The angle made by the rod while making the second impact is also theta. Fine. What you have to find out in this entire question, you might be wondering, so you have given so much information, but what we need to find out? We need to find out nothing but the value of h. H is an unknown here. H is an unknown. The mass is given. So what are given parameters? Mass is given, length is given, angle is given, and you have to find h. And the coefficient of restitution is also given 0.5. Ground is a frictionless one, smooth ground, but having a friction coefficient equal to 0.5. So let's go about solving this question. Okay. So how to approach this kind of question? Very easy, very approachable, very much solvable question if we'll do it in a very step-by-step systematic manner without being baffled at the structure of the question. Just what happens is when I look at the question, you feel that there are so many information, there are so many concepts involved, so you just give up. The moment you give up, there is no further possibility that you can solve the question. But if you will just tell yourself that I can do this question in some way or the other, It's physics only. Okay, it's physics within your scope. You can definitely solve it if you just have this confidence and go about approaching the question. Some other approach will come to your mind. Okay? If not this concept, then another one. If not this one, then another one. Somewhere or the other, it would be solved ultimately. After all, it's a problem, not a paradox. If it is a problem, it has got a solution also. Right? So what happens here? So let us start solving the problem. When the rod comes down and makes the first impact, okay, when the rod comes down and makes the first impact, the position will be like this. This angle would be theta, and this will be center. Can anyone tell me what will be the velocity of the center of mass at the moment the rod is going to hit the ground? The lower end was at a height h from the ground, it was given. Assuming h, you say that h is an unknown parameter. Okay, I do agree, h is an unknown parameter. Assuming h, in terms of h, can you give the velocity of the center of mass at the moment the rod is going to hit the ground? The velocity of the center at the moment the rod is going to hit the ground will be how much? Won't it be equal to under root of 2gh? Yes, it should be. It should be, because every point is traveling by the same displacement, same distance h, till the rod hits the ground for the first time, isn't it? The lower end comes down by h. Even this point also, let's say E, that also comes down by h. Even this point also comes down by h. Every point of the rod comes down by the same distance h downwards, doesn't it? Because the motion is purely translational, as I told, till the rod makes the first collision. Till the rod makes the first collision, the motion is assumed to be purely translational. So that's why the every point of the rod, including the center of mass, would have traveled by a distance h only in the vertically downward direction. So velocity of the center of mass will be, of course, nothing but equal to what? Under root of 2gh. Absolutely, no doubt in that. Fine. So now tell me, when the rod makes the impact, first impact with the ground, we told that the velocity of the center of mass is under root of 2gh. When? Now the question comes when? Is it after making the impact or before making the impact? The velocity that I told under root of 2gh, that is after making the impact or before the impact? This velocity is invariably, undoubtedly just before the impact. This velocity just before the impact, because at the moment it makes the impact, just after the impact, if I say, definitely this velocity has to change, because the rod will receive a linear impulse from the ground. In the process of collision, what happens? An impulse is exerted by one body or by one surface on the body, which makes the collision with that. Isn't it? Right? So this velocity must be at the instant just before collision. Yes, this velocity of center of mass must be at the instant just before collision. It cannot be just after collision. Because once the collision happens, then there has to be an impulse on the rod, there has to be a change in this velocity. So what happens after the collision? So after the collision, let me assume that the center will gain and must gain a velocity in the upward direction, because the center has to rise upwards, the rod has to rise upwards. So obviously, the center must be gaining a velocity in the vertically upward direction. Fine. And let me assume that in the process of collision, this horizontal ground exerts a linear impulse. I have written here J naught. So what is this J naught? This J naught is called the linear impulse. I will call it linear impulse. And must be known to everyone what impulse is. Linear impulse equal to means the normal reaction force that it exerts. If that is n naught, then n naught into the small time interval of collision, force into the time interval for which the force acts, will give us the impulse. Because it's a collision, obviously it happens for an infinitesimally small time interval. It doesn't happen for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It happens for 0.000001 seconds. Delta t tends to 0. Delta t is infinitesimally small. So that's why the linear impulse exerted by the rod will be what? This force into this very small time interval. That's called linear impulse. And you'll ask me why the impulse is vertically upward. The impulse is always along the common normal line. If I take two spheres, suppose I take two spheres are colliding, then the impulse exerted by each one on the other. Each of the spheres is going to exert an impulse on the another. Suppose this is sphere A and this is sphere B. So A is going to exert an impulse on B and B is going to exert an impulse on A. The magnitude will be equal and the direction will be opposite. And what will be the direction? The direction will be along the common normal line. Common normal line means the line passing through the center. For a spherical body, the common normal line means the normal line to both. The normal means the radial line, means the line passing through the centers. Fine. But here in this case, the rod is colliding with a surface. A body is colliding with a surface. Whenever there is a collision of a body with a surface, here two bodies are colliding, and here the collision is happening that of a body with a surface. Then the surface is going to exert a normal reaction on the body in the direction perpendicular to the surface. Perpendicular to the surface, not perpendicular to the body. Perpendicular to the surface. So perpendicular surface will be vertically upwards because the surface is horizontal. That's why the ground is going to exert an impulse, linear impulse on the rod in the exactly vertically upward direction, because impulse means force into time. Force means which force? The normal reaction force, and the normal reaction force has to be at the surface in the vertically upward direction. So normal reaction is vertically upward, so that's why impulse due to the normal reaction, impulse due to the normal reaction will also be vertically upwards. Fine? Okay. Till now it's clear, must be. So what I said, that the velocity of the center of mass just before the collision, the velocity of center of mass just before the collision is under root of 2gh, and here this rod receives an impulse, linear impulse in the vertically upward direction. What is the effect of impulse? Whenever linear impulse acts on any body, what change it brings about in the system, in the body? Whenever a linear impulse acts on a body, what change it brings about in the system? It changes the linear momentum, because linear impulse by definition, a linear impulse by definition is nothing but, what's the definition? Linear impulse equal to change in linear momentum. So by definition only, its name only suggests that it changes the linear momentum. So of course it will change the linear momentum. Yes. A linear momentum means mass into velocity. Linear momentum means what? Mass into velocity. Mass remains constant. Mass cannot be changed. That means linear momentum is changed by the impulse, means the velocity vector, velocity must be changing. And here only we are assuming that this is the velocity under root of 2gh just before the collision. This is the velocity of center of mass just before collision, and just after the collision I have assumed that to let the center of mass starts moving upwards with the velocity vf. Now when people ask me what is the momentum of the rod just after the collision, then what will be the momentum? Final momentum of the rod. Final means the momentum, linear momentum just after the collision. So what will be that? M into Vf. But is it okay to write like this? Is it okay? Is it correct to write a linear momentum like this, M into Vf? Is it correct? I don't think so. I don't think it's correct, because linear momentum is a vector, and a vector has both magnitude and the direction also. When I'm writing MVF, I'm only writing the magnitude. I'm not accounting for the direction. So in order to account for the direction, I have to choose a sign convention. Now let me choose a sign convention. Upward positive vertically upward direction positive and vertically downward direction negative. Vertically upward positive and vertically downward negative. You can choose the other one also. There is no compulsion that you should choose upward positive and downward negative. You can choose downward positive and upward negative. What does it mean? Choosing upward positive and downward negative. What does it mean? It means that any vector, any momentum or anything that will lie along the upward direction, any vector that will lie along the vertically upward direction will be taken with a plus sign, because according to the convention the vertically upward direction is positive, right? So according to the convention upward is positive, that's why the final momentum will be mvf in magnitude, and for the direction it will be assigned a plus sign, because my convention is that upward is plus. Yes, the velocity vf is upward, so momentum will be also upward, magnitude mvf, and because it is upward, it is attached with a minus sign. Fine. So initial momentum must be negative, because initial velocity of the center. Initial means, whenever I say initial in the questions of collision, whenever I say initial means the instant just before the collision, I mean. When I say final, I mean the instant just after the collision. So just before the collision, what is the velocity? Under root of 2gh. So what is the initial momentum? It will be m under root of 2gh, but with a minus sign. Yes. If you write these values without the sign and use them in the equation, then obviously, invariably, without an iota of doubt, you are going to get wrong answers. Absolutely no doubt in that. Without an iota of doubt, I can guarantee that you are going to get wrong answers if you use these values without the signs. And that is a problem, many students face, because they don't choose a sign convention, they simply write the magnitude and substitute in the equation. Obviously it is going to lead you to wrong answer, because they're doing something fundamentally wrong. Fine. Then, so what I can write down, linear impulse, I'm going to change the linear momentum. And what is linear impulse? J vector, I'll call it J vector equal to change the linear momentum, that is delta P vector. Both are vectors. Change in linear momentum, what does it mean? Final momentum minus initial momentum. Change in linear momentum, final momentum minus initial momentum is equal to what? Impulse. Final momentum means final linear moment. I'm talking of linear moment. Everything is linear here. Linear impulse, so change in linear momentum. Is that clear? So J vector equal to delta P vector. That means this is equal to final momentum vector PF vector minus PI vector. What about J? J is also a vector, because impulse is force into time. Impulse is what, boss? Impulse is normal reaction force into time. Time doesn't have any direction, but force has a direction. So scalar multiplied with a vector is giving me a vector. A scalar time multiplied with normal reaction is giving me the linear impulse. Since normal reaction is a vector, so whatever is the direction of normal reaction, the same is the direction of linear impulse. Yes? Clear? That means linear impulse is a vector, and if it is a vector, it also has to be assigned a proper sign along with the magnitude. And you can see the direction of the impulse is also in the vertically upward direction. Direction of the impulse is also in the vertically upward direction. And what convention I have chosen? The convention that I have taken for writing the final and initial momenta can also be used for the impulse also, because they are all in the same equation. So the convention that has been taken for writing the signs of assigning the signs to the linear momenta vectors, they can also be used for assigning the sign to the linear impulse vector. So linear impulse vector being in the vertically upward direction will have a plus sign, because vertically upward is taken positive. So I will write here plus J naught. J naught for the magnitude, let the magnitude of the impulse is J naught, and plus for the direction upward. So plus J naught equal to final momentum minus initial momentum vector, and we have the vectors here. That is, for final I'm writing plus MBF, final I'm writing plus MBF minus initial is how much? Minus m under root of 2g. Is that clear? Just see here. Should be plus MBF final minus initial is minus m under root of 2gh. Fine. So minus minus will give me plus. So that will be MVF plus, if I take M common, plus under root of 2GH, doesn't it? MVF plus M under root of 2GH. M is common factor, can be taken outside. So VA plus under root of 2GH is what? Equal to the magnitude of linear impulse plus J naught equal to MVA plus under root of 2GH. That is the first equation that we obtained using the concept of linear impulse equal to change in a linear momentum in the process of first collision. Till now what has happened? Only first collision we have assumed to have taken place of the rod with the horizontal ground, isn't it? Clear? Cherry. What else happens here apart from the linear impulse? Is there anything else experienced by the rod? So if I ask you, apart from linear impulse, is there anything else experienced by the rod? There is nothing more, there is no other thing acting on the rod, but this linear impulse will play a dual character here. The movies would have seen heroes, actors playing actor and actresses playing dual characters. Electron exhibits dual character as a matter, as a wave, correct? So similarly here, the impulse here, linear impulse here is performing dual function, boss. Dual function. So one function is what? One function is to bring about a change in the linear momentum. Another function will be to bring about a change in the angular momentum. Because linear impulse is the linear impulse about the center. If I'll assume an axis passing to the center like this, an horizontal axis passing to the center, is this linear impulse creating some angular impulse about the center? Means about the axis passing to the center? Yes, this linear impulse is producing an angular impulse about the axis passing to the center also. This linear impulse is producing an angular impulse about an axis passing through the center also. Why? Because for the same reason, for the simple reason, linear impulse is what balls force into the time. If I would have said a force is acting here, do I have any torque about an axis passing to the center? Yes, of course. Of course, there is a torque. There is a line of action of the force, and this is the axis. So from the line of action of the force, if I drop a perpendicular, this will be what? The effective R. If I drop a perpendicular, this will be what? The effective R effective. So R effective into the force. R effective into the force will give me the what? The torque. Yes, this R effective means this also R effective. And what the value is equal to? Isn't it equal to L by 2 cos theta? Because this part will be L by 2. This part will be L by 2. This is theta. So won't the R effective be equal to how much? L by 2 cos theta, isn't it? Yes. L by 2 cos theta. Fine. So force into L by 2 cos theta will give me the torque created by this force about the center. The torque created by this force about the center will be how much? F naught, the magnitude of the force, into R effective, that is F naught L by 2 cos theta. Yes, what is this? This is equal to torque. External torque created by what? The external force. Yes, if I simply multiply delta T with both the sides, so external torque into delta T is going to give me what? Our external force into delta T, the time interval for which the force acts, gives me what? The linear impulse. Similarly, the external torque into the time interval is going to give me the angular impulse. This term is nothing but what? Angular impulse. As simple as that. It is the rotational analog of linear impulse. Angular impulse is what? The rotational analog of linear impulse. Linear impulse equal to external force into the time interval. Similarly, angular impulse is external torque into the time interval. Fine. So angular impulse equal to torque into time. So this is equal to what? Force into this term is what you can see here. Force into time. What is that? Force into time is what, boss? Linear impulse. That is assumed to be how much? J naught into L by 2 cos theta. So J naught into L by 2 cos theta means a linear impulse into R effective. What is L by 2 cos theta? This is R effective. A linear impulse into R effective will give me angular impulse. A linear impulse into R effective is going to give me what? Angular impulse. Because force into R effective, force into L by 2 cos theta, force into R effective is giving me what? The torque external. Fine? Clear? Okay. Let's move ahead. That means we concluded that the linear impulse is performing a dual role here. Along with changing the linear momentum, it is changing the angular momentum as well. Along with changing the linear momentum, it is changing the angular momentum as well, isn't it? The linear impulse is performing a dual function here. Along with changing the linear momentum, it is changing the angular momentum as well, because this linear impulse is producing a angular impulse also about an axis passing to the center. That is how much? J naught into L by 2 cos theta, isn't it? As simple as that. So I'll write here J naught into L by 2 cos theta is what? The angular impulse. The angular impulse due to the linear impulse. Angular impulse created due to what? Created due to the linear impulse. Fine. And you know that angular impulse equal to what? The change in the angular momentum. As linear impulse equal to change in the linear momentum, similarly angular impulse must be equal to change in the angular momentum. So let me assume that LF, angular momentum is denoted by L. So LF vector equal to the final angular momentum just after the rod makes the first collision. Similarly here, when I say final, I'll mean that the angular momentum just after the collision. And when I say initial, the angular momentum just before the collision. Whenever in the context of collision I say initial and final, anybody says initial and final, not only me, he means that invariably the momentum before the collision and the momentum just after the collision. Clear? So final angular momentum minus initial. And you can say clearly, very clearly, without any iota of doubt, without a single hesitation, without any hesitation, that what the initial angular momentum is how much? Zero. No? Initial angular momentum of the body is zero because the body was not rotating till the first collision. That is given as the information in the question. The rod is doing only pure translational motion till it makes the first collision. That means just before the first collision, the rod was not having any angular velocity, any angular motion, any rotational motion. That means the initial angular momentum of the rod must be what? Zero. Clear? So initial angular momentum is invariably zero. That is, you have to write the value of final